how the Phoenix Suns became contenders. For a long time in this channel, the Phoenix Suns were a team that I made fun of. I made fun of their roster moves, I made fun of their draft picks, their relatively cheap owner, and year after year they provided a lot of great comedy for this channel. And now, they're one of my favorite teams in the league. They're the second best team in the West, and they are a legitimate contender. So I wanted to take some time out, make a video about how exactly they built a roster that was a joke and has now become a contender. So with that said, what's up fellas? My name is Tucker, and we're going to begin by going back to the end of the 2014-15 season in Phoenix. After a handful of mediocre seasons, the Suns realized it's time to kind of reset their roster, and in that 2015 draft, they end up picking up a guy by the name of Devin Booker in the middle of the first round. And we know what Booker is now. He's an incredible perimeter player. He can play on or off the ball. He's a great shooter, a great mid-range scorer, can get to the rim. One of the better all-around perimeter players that we have in the league. But at the time that he came out of the draft and was drafted by Phoenix, he was pretty much just seen as a spot-up shooter because that's what he was in college. He played on a Kentucky team that needed spacing so badly that was basically the only thing that they asked him to do. And some people even thought that Booker was drafted too high by Phoenix. But the beginning of his career really shaped what Booker ended up becoming as an NBA player, because those first couple of years in Phoenix, they missed on draft pick after draft pick after draft pick after selecting Devin Booker in the middle of the first round. Alex Len, Marquise Chris, Dragan Bender, Josh Jackson, the help that he was supposed to get just never came about. They went years and years and years without having a legitimate point guard there. And as a result, Devin Booker had to be everything for Phoenix. He went from playing on one of the most talented college teams of all time to one of the least talented NBA teams in the league, at least on the perimeter. And so he had to create everything. He became a really good on-ball player, a pick and roll player, a playmaker, a mid-range scorer. He was not just a spot-up shooter anymore, and that development was out of necessity. Phoenix didn't have anybody else. Brandon Knight would get hurt. They traded away Eric Bledsoe. Phoenix did not have anybody else to be a perimeter creator, and that had a large part to do with the development of Devin Booker into the player that we now know, and that kind of started them on this path that has gotten them now into contender status. But it certainly did not happen quickly, and this is the period in which really the Suns were a joke. For a couple of years, they were between 19 and 24 wins. Everybody thought Devin Booker was a big stats, bad team kind of guy. I certainly made those kinds of comparisons, and I said, well, until this guy starts winning, I'm not really going to take anything that he does seriously. As I mentioned, they missed on draft pick after draft pick after draft pick. They made bad roster moves, and you really have to fast forward a couple of years before they start to build the team that they now have. And it's interesting because apart from Booker, this was not like a slow buildup of a really good team, like something we've seen in Utah, where Utah's been a good team for a couple of years. They've made move after move that has really helped put them in position to be a good contender. After Gordon Hayward left, they get Donovan Mitchell, they add Bogdanovich, they add Ingles, they add Gobert, year after year after year. Really, for Phoenix, it was they get Booker in 2015, and then fast forward to the 2018 draft is the first time that they really start to surround Devin Booker with quality players. That begins with them winning the lottery in the 2018 draft and selecting DeAndre Ayton. And at the time, I thought it was a mistake, and it still was one. Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, there are a ton of incredible players in that 2018 class. But lately, DeAndre Ayton in this postseason has shown that he might have been exactly what Phoenix needed. At the time, Ayton was seen as a player that had some offensive skills, could knock down a mid-range jump shot, was gigantic, great athleticism, great body control, and could develop into a really, really good defender. And that is exactly what has happened. He's the perfect fit for them. He does everything for them defensively at the rim, and he has really grown and developed over the last couple of seasons despite missing a lot of time due to suspension in his second season, and has become exactly the kind of big man that they need alongside Devin Booker. But that's not the only thing that happened in that 2018 draft. Phoenix held another pick. They held the 15th pick in that draft, and originally they were going to end up with Zaire Smith, but they moved up to the 10th pick in the draft, and this is one of the most impactful, most important trades and roster moves that Phoenix has made in the last 6 or so years of trying to create this contender, because year after year they were trying to find a wing that they could put alongside Devin Booker that was going to be able to shoot and going to be able to guard. Every team in the league is looking for players like this, and they identified Mikhail Bridges in that 2018 draft as the guy they wanted to go and get. And I can remember when Mikhail Bridges got drafted. He's a Philly guy. He's from Philadelphia. He went to Villanova. His mom works for the 76ers, and the Sixers draft him with the 10th pick in the draft. and they trade him away. And at the time, Phoenix gave up a lot to go and get Mikhail Bridges. They gave up the 15th pick, which was Zaire Smith, that Brett Brown famously said reminds him a lot of Kawhi Leonard, or Zaire Smith, who is no longer in the league due to some unfortunate health stuff, and a future 2021 Miami first-round pick that they originally got for Goran Dragic, for sending Dragic to Miami. That was a lot of value to give up because at the time, some people thought that the 2021 draft would be the double draft in which high school players would be allowed to enter the draft in addition to college players. So this was a real swing big type of moment for Phoenix, and Mikhail Bridges has developed into a guy that's going to get a very large extension in the offseason to his rookie deal. He's probably going to get somewhere in the 4 years, $80+ million range because he is a really good defender. He guarded LeBron shockingly well in round one of this postseason and is a really good three-point shooter as well, and they knew they needed to surround Devin Booker with players like that to create the roster that they wanted to. So they have Booker in 2015, and then in 2018, they get DeAndre Ayton and the trade for Mikhail Bridges that really start them on this path towards being contenders this year. And they have an okay season, but then 2019 rolls around, and this is really where things start to change for Phoenix. First of all, they go out and get Monty Williams as head coach. They went through a ton of different head coaches over the first handful of years of Devin Booker's career, including Igor Kokoshkov, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his last name, who lasted one season in Phoenix, and then they end up getting Monty Williams. And Monty Williams has proven to be one of the better coaches in the entire league. Really, his personality and his fingerprints are all over this Suns team now as they're contenders in 2021, and it was a huge get for them. He's someone that forced these young guys to take things seriously, really got their attention, really commanded respect within the organization. And they also went out and got Cam Johnson as well in the 2019 draft, a pick that a lot of people didn't think was a great idea, but it gave them another wing that could shoot and could defend, and he's become a nice, solid player for them. And again, it's just another piece on this roster that they really needed to add on the wing. And that 2019-20 season was obviously a weird one, but then they get to the bubble. And you could argue that if this next event does not occur for Phoenix, they're not contenders this season. They go to the bubble, they're invited there, they have a very small chance of making the postseason, but they're there anyway, they compete, they play hard, and everything just clicks. All the perimeter guys are playing really well around Devin Booker, and you kind of had this realization where it's like, wait, if you have wings that can defend and bigs that can defend the rim, Devin Booker is an incredible offensive player. If you can just get complementary guys around him, you can actually be a really good team. They go 8-0. They go undefeated in the bubble, and they still don't end up making the playoffs. I don't know why they were invited if they could go 8-0 and not make the playoffs, but they go 8-0, and that changes everything for Phoenix. It wasn't just momentum for the following season. It wasn't just this little, oh, look at Phoenix, they're an interesting team now, and then they carry that over to the following offseason or to the following season. It changed everything. They go out and they sign Jay Crowder in free agency that offseason. They trade for Chris Paul, and the little detail of the Chris Paul trade that I don't think people realize is he asked to go there. Oklahoma City was going to send Chris Paul to a team that he felt good about, a team that he wanted to go and play for. And Chris Paul told them, he said, I want to go to Phoenix. And initially, the Suns were skeptical about a Chris Paul trade. They didn't know if they were ready to bring in a 36-year-old, 6'2" point guard, give up future assets in exchange for Chris Paul. They didn't know if they were there yet. But that 8-0 run in the bubble proved to themselves and proved to Chris Paul that that was a marriage that needed to happen. And they trade for him, and it's off to the races from there. They've got Paul from the trade, Devin Booker from the 2015 draft, Bridges and Ayton from the 2018 draft. They signed Jay Crowder in free agency. They've got Cam Johnson coming off the bench. And there were all these little moves in between there as well. They made Cam Payne an NBA player again. They brought in Dario Saric and then re-signed him. And there were just these other little moves. I can remember when they signed Ricky Rubio, and I thought it was an awful trade. They gave away TJ Warren for nothing to create the cap space to sign Ricky Rubio so they could have a legitimate point guard alongside Devin Booker in that 2019 season. And then they used that Rubio contract to trade for Chris Paul. And it's all these little moves that you can see how they really managed to build a contender. Granted, over the span of 6 seasons, with Devin Booker being the first selection back in 2015 that really kind of initiated all this. But specifically within the last couple of years, when you look at the 2018 draft, they have one of the worst records in the league. They end up with the first overall pick in the draft, and they pretty much nail every move from that point on. Ayton's been awesome. Mikhail Bridges has been awesome. They create a really interesting team that goes 8-0 with the bubble. They trade for Chris Paul. They sign Jay Crowder, and now they're off to the races. And it became very clear very early in this season that this Phoenix team is legit because they don't put bad basketball players on the floor. And yes, they had a ton of draft mistakes. They could have been even better than they are right now, and certainly could have been better sooner than they were. They had a ton of mistakes, whether it was the Josh Jackson thing, Marquise Chris, Dragan Bender, Alex Len, I believe I said that they were one of, if not the worst drafting team of the entire previous decade, even with some of the nice additions they had in 2018 and 2019. And of course, the selection of Devin Booker as well, but they had so many misses. But over the last couple of years, bringing in Monty Williams, they have truly built a legitimate and a long-lasting contender so long as Chris Paul sticks around. And I'm happy for them because Devin Booker has proven a lot of people wrong, including myself. I didn't think that he was a winning player, and he's proven that he absolutely is. And it's so fun to see a team go from a joke to now being a contender this year. And that is going to be the end of today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this from me, where I'm kind of showing how a particular team created a roster, let me know down in the comment section below what team you would like for me to cover. I love doing these kinds of things. It's super fun to kind of look back on roster moves that teams have made over the years. With those things said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like rating. Check out more videos from me. The box is on screen. Once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.